Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Preparing to Sell Your Home. Whether you're looking to sell in the next month or in the next 2 years, this is really about information you need to know to start getting your home ready to put on the market. I'm Jolyn Hall. I'm an agent with Schmidt Realty Group, and I look forward to sharing this information with you today. So for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm a licensed real estate agent with Schmidt Realty Group, but my background's a little bit different. I was a registered nurse. I was a home care case manager for over a decade, and then I moved into working with seniors housing in a management role with both nonprofit and for-profit housing providers. So for over 20 years, I watched people sell their last home to move into retirement living. 2 years ago, I started Edmonton 55 and started formally assisting older adults make transitions into different living options for them. So as a real estate specialist, I do focus on the 55 plus group just because downsizing is very different in later life than many other stages of buying or selling a property. And so this is my specialty and focus. So today I want to help you get prepared for selling. I want to help you understand the market, understand the process of selling your home, deciding when to sell, because that's really the biggest question I most frequently get. And then how do you actually prepare your home for sale? So let's start about the market first, because these are the basics you need to understand to help you make a decision about when the right time to sell your home is. So first things first is a seller's versus a buyer's market. So a seller's market is when there is very little inventory so that there's lots of buyers for each home, and the buyers almost compete to be able to purchase a home, which is very beneficial to the seller because they might be able to get multiple offers or sell at their listing price. A buyer's market is when there is too many homes on the market and buyers have their pick of 3 to 10 homes, and they can kind of put sellers against each other, make them a little bit more competitive, trying to get their home sold. So in that case, a lot of times buyers can get a really good deal. So in Edmonton at the moment, last year we were in more of a buyer's market headed towards stabilization, where we were a little bit more equal to it all. And there was definitely lots of inventory and buyers had choices. In the last 2.5 months, we are in a seller's market in that there isn't many choices for buyers. If buyers want to make a move, they need to act very quickly, and they often need to purchase a home, often are competing for a home. And right now, many homes are going into multiple offers within the first 24 to 48 hours on market if they're a good home in a good neighborhood. So understanding sellers and buyers market is important to understand and help get a sense of your pricing strategy. It's a very specific. And it changes frequently. Just because it's a seller's market this week doesn't mean that it's going to be that way next week. A number of variables can change it. Condos versus home sales. So home sales generally do better than condos. They tend to be quicker. Home sales are often in the range of 60 to 70 days on market on average. Condo sales are an average of 70 to 90 days on market, possibly more. Home sales tend to be very neighborhood specific. We look at pricing and data from the neighborhood as a whole. When we look at condos, we look specifically at that building. We are just competing with those in that building, mostly for looking at price. So condo sales do get looked at very differently than home sales. So in the current market right now in Edmonton, home sales have shifted into that seller's market. We don't know for how long. There is some factors in the economy in the next month or two that's definitely probably going to shift things. Condo markets have been in a buyer's market for the last 5 years. We are seeing evidence that it is shifting towards stabilization. So buyers and sellers are at equal advantage. And there is some forecasting that condos might start shifting and picking up sales pace. So that'll be exciting to see sort of what comes from that this year. The market is very neighborhood specific. So I get a little bit upset when I hear the newspapers writing about the market in general, because that may not apply to your neighborhood. I have some neighborhoods in Edmonton and area that I know if we list a home, we're going to have multiple offers within 24 hours. I have other neighborhoods that I know it might take us 2 or 3 months to get a good buyer putting in an offer. And so it's when you're looking at the market and looking at selling your home, it's really important you speak to someone to understand what's happening in your specific neighborhood. The market always changes. It doesn't stay the same, and there is no way to predict it. I do not have a crystal ball. We do our best to work with economists and all sorts of professionals that give us some guidance as to whether things are short-term, long-term, what may influence it, what may change it. But it's things like the economy, big companies, and whether they're employing people or laying people off, what's happening with the oil and gas sector, what's happening with the interest rates for mortgages. So many variables shift that market almost daily. So it's really hard to predict what prices will be like in the fall because we only know what the market is today. So you have to always keep that in mind, that the market may shift by the time you're ready to get on it. So knowing your home value. Please do not decide to sell your home based off of your property assessment. That is a city taxation value. The city uses a formula based on the square footage of your yard, the square footage of your house, and also the neighborhood value, and also the revitalization needed in your neighborhood. And then a small piece of that is looking at market value of your home for a year and a half ago. So right now, property taxes are coming out based on June 2019 market numbers, which do not reflect the current state of things. So property tax values are nice, but I sell homes higher than property tax value. I sell homes lower than property tax value. It really doesn't give us a lot of bearing for actual market value. The ways to find out your true market value, if your home sold today on the market, what could it sell for? And one is having a real estate agent do a comparative market analysis. This is looking at your home, its condition, its lot, its features, its benefits, the surrounding community, as well as what else has sold in your neighborhood that's comparable in style and condition to you, and coming up with a narrow range of what your home may sell for in that neighborhood if you listed it today. It's just a value based off of today, because a home can sell really high next month, or a home can sell really low next month. That's going to shift where you fall into that price range. The other option is to pay for an appraiser to do an appraisal on your home. They use very much the same method. It will cost in the range of $500. And again, it's just a value for that specific day on the market. They don't always look into a great deal of detail in terms of the insides of other homes that have sold in your neighborhood, but they often end up in a fairly similar range. Comparative market analysis can be done by any real estate agent, and generally there's no fee to do that. So what does the process look like for selling your home? First, you need to choose your representation. Then you're going to prepare for your sale. Then you're going to maximize your showings. You're going to negotiate to a sale price with favorable conditions and terms, hopefully. And you're going to prepare for possession day and the key handoff. So today I'm going to focus mostly on choosing your representation and preparing for your sale. So choosing your representation, you have a couple ways that you can choose to sell your home. You can work with a real estate agent or you can do a private sale yourself. So there's definitely pros and cons to each. I always suggest if you're thinking of doing a private sale, still speak to some real estate agents to get a sense if that's really something you want to take on first, but definitely look into both. When you work with a real estate agent, we have a license that we must oblige by certain standards in the profession. And we have a fiduciary, which is a legal duty and loyalty to your best interests when you are a client with us. Meaning that the advice I give you isn't just blanket advice that I hand out to everyone. It's advice specific to your circumstances, your goals, your wishes, and making sure that those interests are protected throughout your sale. A real estate agent is going to have neighborhood knowledge, knowing what's hot, what's not, things to be aware of. I know which neighborhoods have really bad basements, and it's just the nature of the beast. So that neighborhood knowledge is definitely going to help you in terms of marketing your home and putting it in the best light. But they're also going to have very specific marketing knowledge, because it is not enough these days to just put a home on MLS and that's how you sell it. Basically, we want your home to be right in front of sellers and buyers. And we want your home marketed in the best light possible. So it's knowing exactly how to target to the right type of buyer for your home. Is it investors? Is it a young family? Is it somebody who's retired? Because there should be a completely separate marketing plan based on that target audience rather than just throwing it up on MLS. An agent's going to help you with strategy, so helping you figure out timing, helping you figure out pricing that will be to your advantage, and helping you negotiate a best deal. So I've had one client recently that, because we knew the neighborhood had a lot of activity and then there was no homes for sale, we knew there was a lot of buyers. So we actually priced their home a little bit higher than we would have otherwise to see if those buyers were still circling and see if we could get that higher price, and we did. And then I have another seller that has a condo where there's 4 other condos listed, and we actually purposely priced them $100 lower than the lowest sale price in there, just so that if somebody's searching in that building, they're going to see that suite first, they're going to fall in love with it, and they're going to compare every other suite to it. And hopefully we get them sold faster out of those 4. So there's always strategy in not only the marketing, the planning, but also in managing the negotiation of the sale. And the biggest thing is you have guidance every step of the way. You don't have to be an expert at this. Most of us sell a home every 10, 15, 20, or sometimes my clients haven't sold anything in 40 to 60 years. You're not expected to be the expert, so have somebody that can work with you every step of the way and guide you through it. Not all agents are created equal. Just like you can choose your own bakery and they'll all make cakes differently, it's the same with agents. We're all agents, but we all do things a little bit differently. So it's important that you find the right agent for you and what your expectations are that they'll do for you. So the first thing is, some agents only list on MLS. So they'll do all the paperwork, they'll do the photos, they'll do the description, post it on MLS and wait. Some agents will list on MLS, they'll do some basic marketing and still wait for some buyers to come. And other agents, this is the one I fall into, I list my clients on MLS, I use modern marketing, I have brochures for buyers to take home at the showings. I do paid social media ads, Facebook, Instagram, Kijiji, because I'm looking for buyers that aren't looking on realtor.ca and actively search for those buyers for my clients. The other option, if you're not wanting to use an agent, is to do a private sale. The biggest warning is that you are now taking full liability for years for that home sale. So Canada is definitely catching up a little bit more to the States, not as bad, but we're definitely seeing more and more lawsuits related to sales. And so as a real estate agent, because I work within those laws every day, I understand the disclosures, what you need to tell a buyer about material latent defects versus patent defects. Because I know all of that, I'm quite comfortable if I have to defend a client in court, because it's going to be my license and I'm going to be the one with a hand slap if there was issues. But when you do a private sale, that liability falls 100% on your shoulders. And we're seeing situations where buyers bought a house and then did some renovations 10 years down the road and discovered an issue that was never disclosed to them, and now suing the past seller of that property. So it's just something to be aware of because there is definite risk. In a private sale, a lawyer is going to complete the paperwork with you, but they don't guide you through that paperwork. They will just take your lawful instructions. They just fill in the blanks. So there's no strategy, there's no negotiation assistance there. And so you need to manage negotiations and strategy and knowing how best to protect yourself in that private sale. There's no right or wrong, whether you use an agent or a private sale, it's really about what's doing best for you. So when it comes to getting ready to sell your home, these are a couple terms I want you to be familiar with. And if you're able to do some homework and find some of these things, it's absolutely fantastic when I show up to a seller's and they've got some of these things. So the first is your real property report. So in bigger centers, Edmonton and most other communities, this applies. In some smaller communities, you don't legally have a real property report. But a real property report is your survey report of your property. It shows your fence lines, it shows your deck, your patio, your garage, your driveway, where the house sits. And then the second part of that real property report is the city compliance. It might be a stamp, it might be a letter that's attached to the real property report, basically where the city gives compliance and goes, yep, everything's exactly where it should be for property lines. Sometimes we have compliance issues that your fence, you actually built it on the city and now you're dealing with easement issues or other things like that, or you've now got to talk to neighbors because their fence is on your yard. But a real property report is legally required for homes that are selling, as well as bare land condos. Conventional condos in an apartment style, generally you do not have a real property report. So real property reports do not expire. They only become inactive when you change some features of the yard. So if you took down the deck and you've put in a new patio, that real property report that shows the deck is no longer valid because now the backyard has changed and you do need to purchase a new survey and get new compliance. So a real property report will often cost you $800 to $900 to get the survey done and send it to the city for compliance. You can save a bit of money if you want to go stand in the city line to get compliance, and then dealing with any compliance issues that come from that. A real property report often takes 4 to 5 weeks to get. So often when I'm speaking to my sellers, we're getting a real property report set up before we list. Sometimes they've already got a real property report. So go through your files from when you bought the house and see if you've already got that there, because then you don't need to pay for another one if nothing has changed. And then if you don't have a real property report, we do have some ways around it, but it is best if you have it. Know what you've done that you have building permits for. So if you have copies of permits from past owners when you bought it, fantastic. If you have stickers on your furnace, your electrical box, on your deck from permits, that's fantastic. We love to see those as we walk through a house. If you know that something's been done without permits, you do need to disclose it. And there are ways that we can get permits after the fact. If you don't have a basement permit, I'm not too worried. If some of your modifications were done earlier than 1980s, not too worried about it. But if you've done electrical or plumbing recently, if you've done decks, we pretty much have to have permits for those. So it's a conversation I have with all my sellers about their particular situation and what would be most appropriate for them to do in regards to the permit situation. So just, again, things to start looking for and digging up and seeing if you have them or not. And then the last thing is title insurance. Not many people know this. It's a great hidden weapon. If you can't afford to get a real property report, or if you know that your fence might have been built on the city lines, it's basically an insurance policy that you, the seller, purchase and put in the name of the buyer to give them insurance against anything that the city might have issue with down the road. And so sometimes when we either can't get a real property report, we don't have the time to get a real property report, or my client can't afford to get a real property report, as part of the sale, we will offer title insurance. It costs $50 to $150 for the seller. They get it through their lawyer, and it just gives you some peace of mind if you think there might be some bigger issues going on. So just some words to know about that would come up in a sale potentially. There is cost to selling your home, and most of these fees come up before your sale, so just to be aware of. Service fees are for any agent or organization you're using to help you sell your home. There is no such thing as a standard fee. Fees change from agency and brokerage, so it's important to clarify early on with an agent you're working with what those fees and when they're collected look like. Legal costs, you will need a lawyer to complete your sale transaction. Typical fees for my clients often fall in the $1,500 to $2,500 range, depending on the timeline and complexity of your sale. You will need to pay for an updated real property report if you don't have one, or if it's out of date, or you might have to pay for title insurance. So real property report in that $800 to $900 range, title insurance in the $50 to $150 range. If you live in a condo, it is your requirement to have condo documents provided to the seller. Some of these you can access for free on GeniePad or websites that may be available through your condo board or property manager. There will be condo documents you must need to pay for. It varies quite a bit from condo board to condo board, so expect in the range of $300 to, I've seen, about $1,500 for some condo complexes to provide those documents. And understand financing costs. So a couple things that I've seen happen. I've seen people that paid off their mortgage 20 years ago and it never got discharged from their title, so it's still showing as a mortgage owing. So you're probably going to have to pay some legal fees to get that sorted out. If you have a second mortgage or a line of credit tied to your home, you may have penalties for selling your home and closing out those files, depending how your contract was set up. So you want to have a conversation with your bank and lender fairly early on to know if you sold your house today, is there any penalties for closing that file? I've seen, for some people it be a penalty in the $20,000 or $30,000 range, and I've seen for others it's a $200 penalty. It's not a fun surprise to get down the way. And so we really want you to be able to know your costs up front. So make those phone calls to your lender and see what they're saying. So how do you decide the price that you are going to list your home at? And it's really through thorough market and neighborhood review. What's happening in your neighborhood? What have similar homes sold for in your neighborhood? What's going on? What's your timeline look like? How are you going to price? And develop a pricing strategy, because you don't just set a price and sit and wait forever. If your home isn't selling, there's only three things that as a seller you can control. You can control the price, the place, or the property. Can't really control the place. Your house is where it is. And if a buyer doesn't like that neighborhood or that location, there's really nothing you can do about it. You can control the property, in that if everybody doesn't like the paint color or the landscaping needs to be a little bit more cheerful, you can possibly change some of that. But what you have most control over is pricing. And if your home isn't selling, 9 times out of 10, based off of buyer feedback, it's because you need to adjust the price. So with my sellers, we always have our pricing strategy at the top. So the one that I mentioned that we priced a little bit higher because we thought there was a lot of buyers hanging around and we just wanted to see if we could push the envelope. We had a plan that if we didn't have an offer in 2 weeks, we were adjusting the price. So what is going to be your pricing strategy? And do you need a pre-inspection? For most of my homes, we do not do a pre-inspection. It is better for the buyer to pay for their independent inspection because they're not going to trust your inspection. However, if we are suspecting foundation issues or we are suspecting a big issue in the home, then we may do a pre-inspection to get ahead of it before buyers find it. So there are times we're looking at a pre-inspection that can cost in the range of $500 for you to do, but it may give you knowledge to help you figure out the best price for your home, especially if you do suspect there's some issues. So let's talk about what a typical sales process looks like for selling your home. So if you start on the far left of your screen, you've done all the work, you get your home listed, you are live on MLS, you should be getting showings. Generally, for me, within 12 showings, we have an offer. So that's receiving your purchase contract from a buyer. In very quick time frame, you're going to negotiate the price, conditions, and terms of that contract. Often in 24 hours, that contract's negotiated. And then you both come to an agreement which makes your offer pending. So it is not sold, it is conditional. So it's often conditional to financing, home inspection, condo, document review, and any other conditions that the buyer has set up. While you are pending, they're going to work on clearing those conditions. And once they clear those conditions and they're happy and they're moving forward, they're going to remove those conditions like financing, home inspection, condo doc review. And at that time, your home is sold. And then it's just waiting until your possession day. You receive the money from your sale after possession days. With most law offices, it's 48 to 72 hours after your possession day. But the big piece, getting the offer, negotiating, and getting conditions removed, oftentimes that can be 5 to 10 business days. That can feel like a whirlwind for a lot of my clients. And so you really need someone that's going to guide you step by step through that process, because things get overwhelming. And this is the part where it gets emotional and really hard to manage the sale of your home sometimes. So how do you decide your timeline? First, you need to plan where you're moving to. Are you moving to a retirement residence? Are you moving to a condo? Are you moving in with family? What does that look like? And do you want to leave your home before or after the home is listed for sale? Because we really need to know what's happening for you. I can sell a home whether it's vacant. I can sell a home whether it's occupied. My process is a little bit different for each, but what is best for you? Time of year for sale. And it's not that there's really a right time, but there's some things that play into the timeline. And some places, like if you're in a 55 plus condo, you need to sell that between March and October, because not many people 55 plus choose to willingly move in the winter months. So your best time to be on market is that March to October to get a sale. So depending on the time of year may reflect your timeline. If you're in that 55 plus condo, you might want to wait until the spring to sell. And use the timeline that I just gave you to work backwards. So we're actually going to do a sample one. So now if you look at the far side, the right, just under me here, at the possession day, let's say you know where you want to move, you want to be living there by September, which means conditions need to be removed in July if you have a 60-day possession, which means you had to have accepted an offer in mid-June, which means you received an offer in early June. And if the average day on market in your neighborhood is 70 days on market, you need to list by mid-March to ensure you can move by September. So I go through this exercise with all of my clients of what is your timeline? When do you want to be at your next place by? And we kind of work backwards to help them figure out when they should be on the market, when they should be getting their home listed. Too often times I have people that say, I want to move by September, and they want to list it August 1st. You're not going to move by September. I can promise you that. Even with a quick sale, your buyers are going to need some time before possession. You're often looking at 30 to 60 days after conditions are removed. So just do some planning to figure out your timeline. Everybody asks me, when is the best time to sell? And they often say spring, and they're wrong. It's when you are ready, period. I can sell a home in every season. It doesn't matter when you list your home. It doesn't matter if the yard is covered. It doesn't matter if the yard is in bloom. I can make any season work. It's when you are ready. The sooner we get it on the market, the sooner a buyer may find it. You never know when that buyer is searching that's perfect for your home. If you wait till next month, you may have already missed that buyer and you're on the market longer. So spring markets are great. However, there's also the highest competition of homes. Everybody lists their home in spring. So is your home worthy to compete with the others in your neighborhood? Or are you pricing it at a point that it's worth buyers taking a look at? Because once high inventory comes, sellers are competing to get attention. And so spring isn't always the ideal time to list. If it's when you're ready, it's when you're ready. Everybody thinks spring market is April, May, June. Actually, the highest number of buyers out in the year is usually March. March and September have the highest number of buyers. You need to be on the market in March if you want to catch the spring market. And this year it's February. We have those numbers. It's going to be interesting to see as we get later into spring whether February or March had more buyers this year, because it's been a little bit different. And buyers, of course, have lots of choice when there's lots of competition on the market. I love winter sales. Less inventory means less competition for you. If a buyer has to move due to work or life circumstances and there's only 5 in the neighborhood instead of 20, they're going to choose one of those 5, and you've got a 20% chance of being the one picked. So you have better odds than when there's 20 in the neighborhood and you have a 5% chance of being picked. If you don't have the best yard, snow can be a blessing, because there isn't a buyer out there that's going to shovel out your yard to look at the condition of your deck or the condition of your grass. It's a little bit of buyer beware, but many of them that have to move at that time are totally willing to take that gamble. And so if you don't have the best yard, it can actually be a really good time to sell. You'll get fewer showings in the winter months, but the buyers that do come out are more serious. I can tell you, when we had that cold snap, the only buyers that were out in -40 wind chill were the ones that had to find something that month, and they were going to find it. And so you may not get many showings, but the ones coming through are very serious, and you have a high probability of getting an offer. So how do you prepare for your sale? We're going to talk about decluttering, cleaning. We're going to talk about maintenance, repairs. We're going to talk about renovate and not renovate, because everybody says, oh, I'll list it when I finish my kitchen renovations. Please don't. So I can tell you what matters most to buyers is the cleanliness of your home. It's so fun. I love taking out buyers because I hear sort of what works in their brain. And it's why I don't only work exclusively with sellers, because I feel strongly I need to stay in touch with what buyers are saying and looking for. And that helps me help my sellers. So I have seen buyers make comments like, oh, these baseboards are dirty. They must not care about this house. They probably haven't fixed a thing in 30 years. Off of baseboards, like, really? I've had them go, oh, this is just, this bathroom's disgusting. I bet you nothing's taken care of. And I've had the opposite. I've sometimes shown houses that I knew were a rental that were like virtually destroyed. I saw it first day on market with their crappy photos. I know the house was awful and buyers didn't like it. And then they brought in cleaners and they took new photographs and the place is sparkling. And buyers are going, oh, this is so clean. It's so well taken care of. This has to be the house. Everything's going to be perfect in here. When I know that just last month it was a completely trashed house. So cleaning gives buyers the perception that your house is well taken care of. Doesn't matter what you've done or not done. Clean your house. Clean it top to bottom. Clean your baseboards, clean your walls, clean your windows, replace your furnace filters, clean your bathroom vents. Do as much of that little piddly stuff or hire somebody to do it. And declutter. A clean home that's clutter-free allows a buyer to envision the space for them and what their furniture would look like and what their artwork would look like. By investing the time in decluttering and cleaning, you will have a quicker sale. You will sell for a higher dollar amount. It's a lot of effort, but it pays off. Maintenance and repairs. If there's little things you've been putting off, like your 4 light bulbs in the bathroom vanity don't match, change them all to one that matches. And change them to a higher wattage if you can, so it's nice and bright. If a door handle's loose, if a door is sticky, do those basic maintenance and repairs to get your home showing well. Again, buyers make really quick judgments that aren't quite right most of the time. And so just having that illusion that everything's taken care of and there's no loose kitchen cabinet knobs or things like that will go a long way for a buyer. Renovate versus not renovate. For 90 to 95% of my clients, the answer is do not renovate. You will put more money into your home than you will get out. If you put $40,000 into updating your kitchen, you might get $20,000 extra on your value. But especially right now, post-COVID, nobody can vacation anywhere. Everybody's spending their vacation doing home improvements. If you renovate a kitchen or a bathroom and the buyer doesn't like the colors, they are going to rip it out and not care and redo it themselves. So why would you spend the time or the money or the frustration of having your bathroom out of commission for 2 weeks while a renovation happens? Don't do it. If you're thinking of renovating, please talk to a real estate professional about what's beneficial for you and your circumstances. 9 times out of 10, my advice is do not renovate, and we can actually get the house value higher so that you have more money in your pocket than if you did the renovation and take that loss from doing that. And get help where you need it. If you need to hire house cleaners, if you need to hire move organizers, somebody to help you with packing, someone to help you with yard work, please ask for the help you need. A real estate agent is going to be able to refer you to any services you don't know about, or you know what you need, but you don't know who to call. They've got very reputable people to refer you to. But get the help, because the work you put into preparing your home before the sale will pay off in dividends for you. All the hard work on selling your home takes place before it hits the market. So do the work. It will be on the market for a shorter amount of time. And it just takes finding the one right buyer to make your house sold. It doesn't matter how many showings you have. It doesn't matter how many people hate your home. You're looking for just one to fall in love with it. And that's it. And then your home can be sold. So don't get disheartened along the way. There's a lot that goes into selling a home, and the process can be very draining and emotional and not easy to manage. But you need to have someone you're comfortable with along on that journey with you. So if you're thinking of hiring an agent, these are the 5 questions I suggest you ask them. And you can most certainly email me for my document that has these and other questions to ask. Does your listing agreement have an easy exit? So with Schmidt Realty, if you decide you don't want to keep working with me, you just provide me in writing that you're canceling the contract. I don't charge you for the photos we did. I don't charge you for the interior design consult. I don't charge you for the brochures and the marketing we created. We just cut our losses, and go our separate ways. What portion of the business comes from past client and referrals? I'll show you mine in a minute. What were your actual results in getting homes sold? How are you, the seller, taken care of when your agent is not available? I'm frequently in clients. I don't take calls during that time, but I have a whole team that's answering my phone calls and inquiries when I'm not available. And why should I hire you over your competition? And that should be easy for any agent to answer. And I'm happy to answer that for you as well. Numbers matter. I get a little bit geeky at this sort of stuff. So with Schmidt Realty, for all of 2020, our listings sold on average in just 34 days on market versus 58 days for the Realtors Association of Edmonton. So our marketing plan works. So you gotta kind of trust and work along with us, but we sell our homes faster. Our sellers sold on average of 90% of their list price for all of 2020. We were in a pandemic for 9 months of last year, and we still got our sellers 97% of their list price on average. 93% of our business comes from past clients and their referrals. That's huge, because if our clients weren't happy with what we did for them in their sale, they wouldn't refer us to their family and friends. So numbers matter, and any agent should be able to give you their numbers. It's easy to get started if you're thinking of selling your home, and I don't care whether you're looking at selling in 1 month or in 2 years. But contact me for complimentary marketing analysis, just so we can talk what's going on with your home, your neighborhood, and what's best for you. I do visits virtually through Zoom, by phone, with brief in-person meetings. We figure out your timeline. What is your circumstances? When do you want to be moved by? When do you need to be out of that home? And what would make sense for listing your home based on that timeline? Together, we develop the best marketing plan for your home. And when it's time and when you're ready, we get you on market with confidence so that you're not worried, you're not anxious, you're not stressed. I take all of that away from you. For those that want to work with me, I have a free interior designer consultation that will look at your home and prepare it for photos and what you have that's going to make that the best. We also do virtual staging for vacant homes. I do free professional property photos. David is our photographer. He gives a very realistic photo. They're not warped, they're not dark. People need to see good photos because that's the first showing. They see your home online before they ever come and see it in person. We develop a custom website using your address. So when people search your address, they're going to find that website that has your photos, your details, and lots more on there. We develop a comprehensive marketing and modern marketing plan, including MLS, Realtor.ca, open houses when allowed, flyers, social media, and paid online ads. I do print off full color 4-page brochures to highlight your property and the home for buyers to take with them, because sometimes if they've seen 10 homes that day, it's hard to keep track of all the details. If they can write notes and they can see your photos right in front of them, that can help them make some quick decisions. When we put the for sale sign on your property, it also includes a link to your custom website. So any of your neighbors or anyone driving by that wants to see details about your house can get it easily. And that's because if your neighbors love the neighborhood, chances are they know somebody else that wants to live in the neighborhood too. We want them to get information about your property easily. And then I have 24/7 administration of your showings, answering phone calls regarding your listing, even when I'm in an appointment with you. Those calls are being answered. I give you a weekly review and an update on the market in your neighborhood, so you're always knowing what's going on and what our next steps are. I offer the easy exit agreement. I have extended office hours to make things easy for you, your buyer, and their agent if anything has to be dropped off at our office. And I have VIP team coverage. There's a team that covers me if I need to be away for a family emergency or a vacation. You've still got a whole team that already knows all your circumstances to take over. You're not left without coverage just because I'm dealing with a family emergency. I do have a rate sizing guide. If you'd like a copy either by email or mail, just feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to send that to you. And it's a great way to get thinking and preparing how you might want to downsize in life. And I've got all my contact information here. So if you're curious about your home value and what it may take to get your home listed for sale, please feel free to reach out to me by phone, email, or check out my website, jolynsellsedmonton.com, for more resources and information. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope this has demystified some of the sales process if you haven't sold a home in the last 5, 10, or 60 years. But I hope it's given you good things to think about. And my best advice to you is to reach out to a real estate agent you trust if you're thinking of getting on the market, because there's a lot we can do behind the scenes to get you ready, even if you're not ready to go on the market now. But lots of advice to guide you through timing and best next steps. So I hope to chat with you further. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions and concerns, and good luck selling your home. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day.